I walked a lot back then. Night offered cover for those creatures that were so inclined to hide. I walked for clarity's sake. My life was not the story I wanted to live. I searched for something that was out of my reach, a future I didn't know how to achieve. The walks grew longer, resulting in the melding of imagination and environment. A character was born from my desire for change, for self-discovery. My own past intertwined with a story that was and was not my own. I searched, just as Bobby would. Bobby noticed Zach the moment he first saw him. St. John's Academy was a paradise wrought with uniform monotony. Zach's quirkiness culminated in the tin pot he wore for a hat. Yet it seemed all others were oblivious to his presence. Bobby was reluctant to befriend Zach, but there was something otherworldly about him that made him curious. The boys grew closer with time, yet Bobby's past kept him from fully accepting Zach and his obvious oddities. One evening, Zach followed Bobby home, adamant about hearing more about Bobby's father Helion and his strange fascinations. As always, Bobby was on edge around Zach. Zach lived in a world all his own, preserved against the realities that had jaded Bobby. Bobby was a sad boy. He missed his father even though he knew he should hate him. Yet Bobby would often find himself staring off towards distant places, wondering, why did he leave? Bobby had always known his father was different. His own love of the heavens was passed down from Helion. Not strange by itself, but Helion's interests, Bobby learned, were deeply seated obsessions. Late at night, Bobby would look out his window to see him gazing up, as if something was calling to him. Planemo, he would tell Bobby, is the thing I search for. Bobby didn't understand. Helion possessed an armillary sphere, an antique from a distant era. It sat unused in the furthest corner of the attic. It was a space that Bobby's mother had declared forbidden. Yet Bobby often found himself there. Zach gazed at the dusty bookshelves and odd mechanical inventions. He carefully avoided the odd, rusted armillary sphere, then turned to Bobby abruptly.
What would you do if you could find your father?
He asked. Bobby coughed. What? Zach repeated himself.
What would you do if you could leave, right now, leave everything behind, to find him?
He said with an absent swipe of the hand.
Would you, knowing this was your only chance?
Bobby was dazed. He shook his head. Something twinkled in Zach's eye. He stepped closer.
What if I told you that your father never boarded a ship or train, but left from this very spot?
Bobby recoiled. How would you even know that? He spat. Zach smiled as if he knew more than he was letting on.
It's true,
He stated simply. Bobby's eyes narrowed. Who was Zach? He wondered. Zach walked over to the armillary sphere and began setting its parts, as one would a mechanical clock. Once completed, the sphere immediately erupted in a slow, dutiful motion. Faster and faster it spun, rotating at speeds that baffled Bobby. The air prickled with static as the armillary sphere jerked in predetermined convulsions. Bobby turned to gaze at Zach. He was totally devoid of any concern or worry. Bobby turned back to the sphere. Questions swarmed in his mind. What was this? He thought. What was happening? Was his father's hobbies really more than simple interest? Or was he someone that he never really knew? The device spun faster and faster. An unknown light pulsated from the sphere, causing Bobby and Zach to shield their eyes. Then, everything shuddered to a stop. In a brilliant flash, shards of refracted light plumed upward through the rafters. All was quiet. Bobby dropped his hand. All doubt vanished. What is it? He asked. Zach patted him on the shoulder.
That, my friend, is our gateway to adventures to come.
He walked closer. Bobby followed meekly behind. This is impossible, Bobby said to himself. My father went this way? Zach nodded.
And all we do is jump. It's like riding a slide. Before you know it, it'll be over.
This was it, Bobby told himself. Leaving now would mean no going back. A revival of all the fear and misgivings enlivened his limbs. He was excited, yet petrified. "What's on the other side?" he asked a little shakily. Zach smirked.
There are places we can go, things to see, that are indescribable. Your father went in search of Planemo, in search of home, a future, of answers. Staying here won't give you any of those.
Bobby searched his feelings.
Will you come with me, Bobby?
Zach asked a moment later. Bobby hesitated. His gaze warily surveyed the machine. Zach smirked.
This is what your father wanted you to do, Bobby. This is a first step in discovering parts of yourself that you didn't even know existed. All you have to do is take the first step.
Bobby twitched his head back and forth in uncertainty. Zach lent a comforting hand.
It's scary, I know, but think of it this way. The things you are leaving behind can be rediscovered 100-fold out there. You'll laugh. You may cry, but that's part of the adventure. Growing up too fast hardens a person to become someone they should never be. There is more out there than pain and loneliness.
Bobby bit his lip, looked to Zach, and then at the lights of the armillary sphere. A whole new world to start over in, Bobby thought to himself. A place to learn and rediscover. He stared dutifully at Zach and nodded. All right. Zach smiled. He grabbed Bobby by the shoulder and led him to the dais. Does it hurt? Bobby asked.
Not one bit. It's as fluid as water.
The lights reached out towards them, wispily trying to fold them into itself. It was gentle, like a feather against the skin. Bobby smiled as he twirled his fingers playfully in the shards.
On 3.
Zach asked him. Bobby nodded.
1, 2.
Bobby inhaled. 3. The first steps in any adventure are difficult to fully comprehend, but it's the leap into the unknown that catapults us in our own search for Planemo, that place we all seek. The nights of walking alone faded as I took those first steps on a journey all my own. A father, a past, drove me to find a place in a new story, in an adventure that would begin to shape the person I was always meant to be.